The New York Knicks are pretenders. That's what Windhorst of ESPN had to say. And on today's video, we're going to react to that. And I'm going to tell you why, despite not beating any of the top teams in the NBA up to this point, I still think the Knicks can win the big one. My question to you, though, is this. What are the New York Knicks? We're at the All-Star break. We got under 30 games to go. Type C for contender. Type P for pretender. Hopefully by the end of the show, you change your mind. You're watching Knicks Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Marshall Green. Appreciate everybody for stopping by. Happy Monday, and let's go Knicks. Let's talk about it. Windhorst on ESPN over the weekend said that the New York Knicks, because they haven't beat Boston, because they haven't beat OKC, and because they lost to the Cavaliers back in October, they can't be contenders, right? That's what he said. With respect, I have to say they are pretenders. Listen, they've been so good offensively. Brunson and Towns are having great seasons. But they're 0-5 against the Celtics, Cavs, and Thunder. And I have to honor that. Did you honor that when LeBron James would lose to the Atlanta Hawks every single year in the regular season and then beat them in the postseason? I get it, the Knicks don't have LeBron, but I don't think just because we are at February 17th and the Knicks haven't beat the teams like Boston and Cleveland and OKC, that just means, you know what, season's over, pack it up. They can't compete. Because when you go back and you actually look and think of the games that happened, this was opening night. Opening night for the New York Knicks. The first game ever where Brunson, Bridges, OG, Hart, and Anunoby, all are OG, Hart, Towns, Brunson, and Hart all played together. That's the first time those five ever played together. And they got dominated right out of the gate. The Boston Celtics got hot, and the Knicks didn't have Precious, and they didn't have Mitchell Robinson. And against Cleveland, we're talking 6 days into the regular season, a game that you lost by 6 points and a game that you honestly should have won. You were up going into the fourth quarter, and then you were outscored by 10 in that game. Against OKC, look, that was the game where the New York Knicks got dominated in the first quarter, or in the second half. But in the first quarter, they lost by 3. In the second quarter, they won it 36-21, but they lost the second half by 22 points. To be fair, no Chet and no Alex Caruso in that game. You play them 7 days later, and it wasn't really ever that close. The Knicks made it close a little bit by the end of the score, but that game was not all that close. And then recently, against Boston, you lose again in similar fashion. They come out and they blitz you. But remember, no OG Anunoby in that one. I know no Drew Holiday for them, but we know this Knicks team, if OG Anunoby is not healthy, they're not going anywhere. The Knicks haven't been able to beat these 3 teams, but we're going to find out real quick how good they are. Coming out of the All-Star break, this schedule for the New York Knicks really starts to heat up. You got a game against Chicago on Thursday. You should win that game. But right after that, 2 of the next 3 games are tough. You got a back-to-back second night of that at Cleveland. That's going to be tough. Number 1 in the Eastern Conference. Let's stack our chips and let's see where they fall on that one. Then you get a day off. Then you travel to Boston and you get to play them. If you can go 1-1 against Cleveland and Boston, that'd be awesome. If you go 2-0, beautiful. If you go 0-2, maybe the tune of this video will start to sound different if we have to do it again. Things that I've noticed, though, in the 5 games that the New York Knicks lost in these ball games, all but one, they were lit up from downtown. They could not guard the perimeter. And it was really a combination of open men on the floor, but also Boston, OKC twice, and Boston again, just not missing. In that opening night, the Celtics shot 47.5% from 3. In the second game of the second graphic, the second game that we're talking about, the Cavs, back on the 28th of October, they only shot 33%. But again, the New York Knicks went up going into the fourth in that game, and they lost it the fourth quarter by 10 points, inevitably losing that game. You allow a team to shoot 51.9% from 3 on 27 attempts, you're not going to win in many games. And you allow a team to make 19 threes, you're not going to win many games. How are you supposed to win when you allow 29 threes? How are you supposed to win when you allow 52% and you allow another team to make 19 threes? It's very simple in this league. When you play the top dogs, when you play the best in the business, if you can't guard the perimeter in 2025 in the National Basketball Association, you're not going to win anything that matters. Like, it is that simple. I know we always are looking for the crazy reason the Knicks lost. why the Knicks lost. They got to do this. They got to do that. It's really just that simple. The New York Knicks have to find a way to be able to guard the perimeter better than they have. Because when you talk about other teams in this league, you can just keep that there. You don't have to push it. You talk about other teams in the league that don't defend the perimeter well. Think about it like this. The Knicks have the worst, the 30th best three-point defense. They allow teams to shoot 37.8%, 29th, 28th, 27th, and 26th. The Knicks are the only team in the playoffs of those teams. The Kings, the Hawks, the Pistons, and the Nets. You don't ever want to be in a conversation with the Kings, Hawks, Pistons, and Nets. Those teams aren't winning anything. They're not winning many games this year. I know the Pistons are getting better, but you are the worst three-point defense in the NBA. And you're in a group with teams that are competing for ping pong balls. And to be honest with you, I do worry about the New York Knicks perimeter defense because I don't know what is really going to change. The Knicks did start to play a little bit better on that side of the floor prior to OG Anunoby having this latest injury pop up. But does bringing Mitchell Robinson in really change that? Does getting more chemistry change it? I hope so. One thing I think could change it, I'll tell you what that is in a second, but I'm not the only one that's worried about it, and I think I'm one of the only people that think they can do it. An anonymous NBA assistant said this, quote, on the Knicks being able to contend. Nope, they can't. No. With Mikal and Josh and OG, you have strong defenders, but you are just going to keep putting Brunson and Towns in actions, and you're going to go at them. Jalen has been better, but he's still someone to attack, and it's easier to hide him than Karl Towns. They can't guard the Celtics. That's who they have to go through. They're a problem for everyone, but specifically for the Knicks. And I have come back to this question very often this season when watching games and watching them back and looking at different stats and listening to people is, can you have an elite defense with Jalen Brunson and Karl Towns playing together? I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure that you can. But can you get it to a spot that is good enough? I do think that's possible. Where it's at right now, though, is not championship contender worthy. A two-man lineup of Jalen Brunson and Karl Towns. When the two All-Stars are on the floor together, they allow teams to score 120.7 points per 100 possessions. That would be one of the worst defensive ratings in the entire National Basketball Association. Or excuse me, they have an offense rating of 120.7, one of the best in basketball. Their defensive rating still not very good, 114.4, still one of the worst in the NBA. And when you look at the percentages as well, your defensive three-point percentage, when these two are on the floor, you allow teams to shoot 39.6% from downtown. The Knicks are the worst three-point defensive team in the NBA. They allow teams to shoot 37.8%, the worst in the NBA. When these two are on the floor, that percentage goes up by 2 points, all the way up to almost 40%, and you allow teams to shoot 49% from the field on you. And I wonder in the playoffs, are we just going to get into a pick and roll, pick and hunt, and we're going to bring Brunson in the action, then we're going to bring Towns into the action, and it's just going to be those two guys on an island trying to stop pick and rolls, trying to stop pick and pops, and making the defense of Anunoby and Bridges and Hart useless by them just standing and watching. I worry about that. I really, really do. What's your confidence level in this New York Knicks defense? Scale it from 1 to 10. 1 being you're not confident. 10, you're the most confident in the world. You think they can win an NBA championship. Scale it for me 1 to 10 in the comment section. One thing that I was talking about earlier that I really do believe in is the NBA regular season is played at a different way, a different style, and a different attention to detail than it is in the postseason. I know Tom Thibodeau is one of the best defensive coaches of all time. And I know you can't always make water out of wine. Can't turn wine into water. But can Tom Thibodeau, with a week's full of a scouting report, a week and a half full of watching tape, can he analyze and figure out a way to put his team in a spot to be the most successful that they can? I do believe that. And I also believe the New York Knicks defense was starting to click a little bit before OG Anunoby had that foot or toe injury really just pop up out of nowhere. In the 5 games from January 19th to January 29th, the New York Knicks posted a defensive rating of 108.6. That was the 7th best across the entire NBA in that stretch. So for all the talk about they can't defend, all the talk about they can't do this, they can't do that, I know it's for a 10-day stretch, a 5-game sample size. You were top 7 in the NBA in defensive rating, and that's against teams that you beat, like the Memphis Grizzlies, that you beat in the Denver Nuggets. You beat some good teams. Can the Knicks ever be an elite defense this version of them? I'm not so sure. But can they be good enough to win the East, get to the finals, and maybe win the finals? I think they can find a way. We'll break that down more. First, though, we're bringing back our Knicks Now Real One t-shirts for the ride and the remainder of the regular season. We've got the blue ones. We've got the black ones. And you can get yours today by going to chatsports.com/realknicks. That's chatsports.com/realknicks. Get your Knicks Now Real One t-shirt today. We got the standard blues and we got the retro black ones. If you get a shirt, shows up in the mail, take a picture of it and tag me on Twitter at @MarshallGreen_, and we'll pop it up on the show. This is one of my strongest opinions about this New York Knicks team. And once you made the trade for Karl Towns, you made your own bed. If the Knicks are going to do things that we want them to do, if the Knicks are going to do the things that we think they can do, and if they want to put a banner in the rafters at Madison Square Garden, they need to get it done on the offensive end. And I know that's a major switch up for the culture of the Knicks from the 70s to the 80s to the 90s and the big, rough and tough New York Knicks. Defense, defense, defense. That's not this team. That's not how they were built. They play with a center that is the best shooting big man of all time. If the Knicks are going to go on a deep playoff run, they have to operate at the highest level of offense that they possibly can, and they might just have to be the best offense in the NBA, which right now they're the number 2 offense in the NBA. You talk about offensive ratings, 119.9, the best, second best in the business, right behind the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cavs 2 points better than you. You're a half point better than the Nuggets, a full point over the Celtics, and 2 points over the Grizzlies. You are scoring 119.9 points per 100 possessions. If you keep that pace up in the playoffs, you got a shot. You also got to continue to just put the ball in the basket. Continue to do what makes you great, and that's outskill teams and outscore teams and find a way in clutch time to get it done. The New York Knicks are 12-0 this year when they score more than 127 points. The Knicks are 18-2 when they score more than 123 points in a game. There's multiple ways to win a game. Defense, offense, rebounding, shot making, free throws, clutch time. The Knicks' way to win games is to be the best offense in the NBA and maybe the deepest offense in the NBA. The Knicks are the only team, the one and only team to have all 5 starters score at least 30 points in one game. Brunson can get you 50. Towns can get you 50. Bridges can go for 40. Hart's shown he can go for 30. OG can go for 30. We've seen Deuce go for 20 plus. We've seen Precious score 26 just a couple of days ago. We've seen Campaign get hot. There are multiple weapons that can go out and cut you if you're a New York Knicks offense. And when they move with the ball and they play an unselfish brand of basketball, which they mainly do, but when the assist numbers stack up to where they need to be, they're almost unbeatable. You get to 30 assists, you're 20-2. You get 29 assists, you're 23-3. This is my favorite one right here, though. When you get to 28 assists in a game, you are 25-3. And 28 assists isn't even that much of a crazy number. And when you just shoot your average shots from downtown, you're almost unbeatable. You are 25-5 when you make 12 plus threes in a game. 25-5 and you make 12 threes. 12 threes, again, is not a crazy number. But at the end of the day, it comes down to players and not plays. And can my players make the plays in crunch time over your players? And can Jalen Brunson and Karl Towns, can they do that? Brunson's been to the conference finals as a second option in Dallas. Karl Towns has been to the conference finals as a second option in Minnesota. Can they get the Knicks to the conference finals, being a 1A and a 1B option? You got 2 guys that can carry the offensive load for you. You got 2 guys that can hit shots that not a lot of other people can. And if the New York Knicks are going to be crowned NBA champions, they need these 2 gentlemen to play their best stretch of basketball in May and in June. A lot of talk over the weekend of the Knicks don't have an identity. And you know what? I completely disagree. You can say that they don't play defense, but you can't say they don't have an identity. They have one of the best offenses ever. They have one of the top starting lineups in the league. They got the clutchest bucket getter in Jalen Brunson in the association right now. We showed you the stats when they dish and when they switch, and they got a top 5 duo, one of 2 teams that have a duo of players that are averaging more than 24 points in a ball game. If you want the Knicks to win the NBA Finals, hit that thumbs up icon. I don't know if they're contenders right now. I think they are. We're going to know for sure, though. Not going to say for sure. We're going to know a little bit more about this team when we see them face off against the Cavs and we see them face off against the Celtics in less than a week. Make sure you are following me on social media. I'm on Instagram at @MarshallGreen_. I'm on Twitter at @MarshallGreen_. We're going to be back live on the channel for the games this week, so you better be there. Let's go, Knicks. Enough. Good stuff. Nah.